Hello, I am Megan Jansen.
And I'm Taylor Palmby, and you are watching the Badger Report.
Coming up, find out what happened when former Vice President Joe Biden visited the UW campus this week to energize students to turn out and vote. Later, we'll tell you how Madison developed a special area plan to determine the future of the Mifflin neighborhood. Coming up, find out what these updates may look like.
Then, watch as dogs are called in to help students cope with midterms.
And discover how these furry friends students respond to having these furry friends on campus.
From Vilas Hall on the UW-Madison campus, this is the Badger Report.
In the closing days of the election race, prominent Democrats and Republicans are traveling to Wisconsin for some last-minute campaigning.
The Badger Report's John Sklar is here with us for more.
Well, thanks, Megan. There's been a lot of activity in the state these past 2 weeks in the run-up to Election Day. Governor Scott Walker is facing off against State Superintendent Tony Evers, and Senator Tammy Baldwin is running against State Legislator Leah Vukmir. National politicians on both sides of the aisle have made the trip to Wisconsin to help mobilize voters.
Go vote! Go vote!
Over 1,000 people attended a rally for Senator Tammy Baldwin, headlined by former Vice President Joe Biden on Tuesday. Biden is one of many politicians visiting the state, with former President Barack Obama in Milwaukee and President Donald Trump in Mosinee last week. As a battleground state, the gubernatorial and Senate races in Wisconsin are quite significant at the national level.
The state, like Wisconsin, very much a swing state, but one with very political bases that are very animated on both sides. It might come down, and we always say this is a bit of a cliche, but it really will come down to turnout.
The question remains whether Democrats can get college voters to the polls for Tony Evers, or whether Scott Walker can repeat his strong Republican turnout.
And what you heard from Joe Biden today and what you heard from President Obama last week are prominent Democrats saying, this is important, we need to win this state back to help keep our party on a path towards coming back to power ourselves.
Republicans are echoing this
fundraising has been quite interesting in this race, as Republicans have poured money into the state. Governor Walker outraising Evers in the past month by a 3-1 margin. Polls remain very tight as Walker and Evers tied 47-47 in the latest polls, while Baldwin commands a significant lead over Vukmir.
Running to keep her position in the Senate as incumbent Democrat Tammy Baldwin. Challenging her is Republican Leah Vukmir. Both candidates disagree on major issues, including health care, spending, and abortion. Senators typically serve a 6-year term.
Also on the ballot, incumbent Republican Governor Scott Walker is running for a 3rd term. He is faced by Democrat Tony Evers, who is also the incumbent Wisconsin Public School Superintendent. This race is expected to be very competitive. Education is a key issue, as well as gun control. Also part of the gubernatorial election, running for lieutenant governor, are incumbent Republican Rebecca Kleefisch and Democrat Mandela Barnes. Kleefisch has served as lieutenant governor for 2 terms. Also running are Tiffany Anderson for the Green Party, Will Losh as independent, and Patrick Baird for the Libertarian Party. There is no term limit for this position. Another major state race is the race for the Attorney General. Incumbent Brad Schimmel, Republican, is challenged by Josh Kaul, Democrat. Currently, polls say that Schimmel is ahead. Key issues are the opioid epidemic and health care. Don't forget to vote in the November 6th election.
Another item on the November ballot is the advisory marijuana referendum to gauge how Dane County residents feel about this issue. Dane County residents will be asked if marijuana should be legalized, taxed, and regulated similar to alcohol. In 2014, Dane County residents said that they supported such a referendum.
Meanwhile, a League of Women Voters are set on encouraging other women to vote this November.
Have you moved since the last time you voted?
It started off as a cold call to join the League of Women Voters of Dane County.
All right, thanks for voting.
And ended in activism, helping college students find their voice through the right to vote. Current Vice President of the League, Brooks Soldveit, has made it her mission to help all young people vote, especially women.
Without women fighting for these kinds of rights, the best way to stand up for yourself is to vote.
The League of Women Voters has forced change for women through the years. When Soldveit first moved to Wisconsin in 1980, her rights as an individual could not be fully exercised.
I could not get a credit card without my husband's permission.
And if she didn't exercise her right to vote as a woman, it wouldn't feel right.
It feels like a crime.
Other volunteers from the League, like Ingrid Roth, feel that the female vote brings a different perspective.
One of the things that women bring to the table is our care and concern for our families and for other people. It's important to vote because this is the way we manage our democracy.
Less than 100 years ago, women were not able to vote. Today, these women voters are exercising their rights. Wisconsin was the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment. Before that, women were only able to vote on school board issues, an area seen as the women's domain. For sophomore Cameron Corning, she feels her vote works towards equality.
It seems to be that women aren't equally as expected to do things, or we aren't viewed equal to men.
Thank you.
And for me, I want to be able to show that my opinion matters, and I think all women should as well.
One sticker for today and a second one for Election Day.
For the Badger Report, I'm Megan Jansen. In light of the upcoming elections, the Madison Abortion Defense Group held a picket outside of a local Planned Parenthood clinic on Saturday in advocacy of abortion rights. The crowd held signs, and some spoke of their resistant effort. The activist group plans to hold more events in the future.
It's one of the most crucial pieces in the fight for women's liberation.
While Madison played host to other memorial services in the days following Saturday's synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, the UW community united on campus Monday night in the face of adversity. The Badger Report's Brandon Fishman has the story.
David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon.
On Monday night, hundreds of UW students and Madison community members came together to honor those who lost their lives in Pittsburgh last weekend.
And Irving Younger.
Last Saturday, a gunman entered the Tree of Life Synagogue, a Jewish house of worship in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood. The man killed 11 people and injured 6 others. UW-Madison's candlelit vigil took place on the steps of Memorial Library Monday night. The program was hosted by 3 Jewish organizations on campus that worked in conjunction with UW-Madison and the UWPD. Students, faculty, and community members, both Jewish and non-Jewish, shared stories and condemned the violent act. One such speaker was Chancellor Rebecca Blank.
The use of violence in the name of anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic, anti-immigrant, and other ideologies is not just an attack against individuals. It is also an attack on the ideals of this country that we have fought to preserve for generations.
Like Chancellor Blank, Rabbi Andrea Steinberger of UW Hillel Foundation took to the stage to voice her thoughts on the tragedy. After receiving outpouring support from the Madison community following Saturday's events, Steinberger says the organizations aimed to create a space for individuals of all races, religions, and ethnicities to unite in solidarity.
I think that understanding and becoming friends with people who are different from us will help us learn how to get along, and hopefully will prevent acts like this from happening in the future.
For the Badger Report, I'm Brandon Fishman.
Coming up, Madison's Freak Fest Music Festival has some students more fearful of something other than ghosts and ghouls.
Stay tuned for more.
And later, it's midterm week. Students are stressed, and the dogs have been called in.
We'll find out the benefit of these furry friends.
As Badgers, we always like to beat our Big Ten opponents on the football field.
And beat them on the volleyball court.
With your help, we'd like to be the Big Ten champs in voting for the November 6th election.
The University of Wisconsin is competing with all of the conference universities in the Big Ten voting challenge. The school with the best voter turnout in the November 6th election wins.
Don't know how to register, where to vote, or how to vote early? Visit vote.wisc.edu. Remember, Badgers vote.
More than a century ago, we made a commitment to our state. We promised to educate the sons and daughters of Wisconsin. More than 1 million students have passed through our doors. Our alumni have gone on to cure diseases, grow crops, build skyscrapers, found companies, score touchdowns, orbit the moon, and achieve beyond our wildest dreams, but not beyond theirs. On Wisconsin.
Progress is an endless challenge. Here at the University of Wisconsin, we're a community of innovators in constant motion. We think on our feet, connect with each other, and hit our stride, pushing past limits. Progress is an endless challenge, but it is only those up to the challenge who change the game.
In 1905, we made a promise. We promised that our work at Wisconsin would make life better for our state. Our research has developed crops, restored lakes, cured diseases, uncovered history, peered into space, and saved lives. More than a century later, we've not only kept our promise to Wisconsin, we've extended it to the world. On Wisconsin.
A homicide occurred shortly after Madison's Halloween festival, Freak Fest, wrapped up its celebration. Early Sunday morning, a 21-year-old woman allegedly shot and killed a 21-year-old man in a State Street parking ramp.
It is believed that this killing was the result of an altercation inside of the Whiskey Jack Saloon.
Stephen Villegas is Madison's 5th homicide of the year. The woman is now in custody.
Last weekend, thousands of people gathered for Madison's annual Freak Fest music festival. City officials say the event is supposed to make Madison safer during Halloween weekend, but as I discovered, many students don't share the same sentiments. Freak Fest was created as a way to reduce violence over Madison's Halloween weekend. But according to City Finance Director David Schmidecki, Freak Fest not only keeps citizens safe, it also saves the city hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So our costs prior to Freak Fest in terms of police overtime and other city services have come down. In contrast, I think, to a Halloween event that we had maybe a decade ago or so where there was a lot of property damage and things like that.
WSUM station manager Carlton Cook believes that Freak Fest has been positive for Madison, but he also worries about how Freak Fest draws in out-of-towners.
I don't know, there's definitely like an influx of people this weekend, of people coming just to party, so making sure that people are staying safe and there's no drunk driving. And
Carlton isn't the only student who has concerns about how safe the event is.
During Freak Fest, all the people that come from out of town, I just feel like there's not enough officers to be able to correctly protect like all the students that are here.
If I wanted to go to Freak Fest, I don't think I would go just because I don't think I would feel safe.
Students' concerns may end up making a difference in regard to the future of Freak Fest.
It's a program the city started several years ago. I think it needs to be continually evaluated.
A portion of the Lakeshore Path was temporarily closed for construction on Saturday. The university closed down the area of Lot 8 by the Limnology and Water Sciences building from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. to work on the Hoofer Pier replacement project. People hoping to enter the Lakeshore Path at Memorial Union had to enter at either Tripp Residence Hall or Sewell Social Sciences until the construction ended. Traffic intended for the cul-de-sac or the parking garage in Helen C. White was redirected to accommodate the construction. The project will replace the boat docks and restore the shoreline from the UW Hoofer Sailing Club. Construction is expected to be done by this May.
Speaking of water, the months of August and September were filled with flooding. Now, a Federal Emergency and Management Agency Recovery Office is set to open. This disaster recovery center will be available for Madison home and business owners impacted by the flooding. Fortunately, those wishing to use the center will not have to wait until it opens. You can register online before the center officially opens at disasterassistance.gov or by using the FEMA app.
Downtown Madison is continually being developed, but one neighborhood in particular has not changed much over the years. Now the city of Madison has begun to give it the attention it needs. The Badger Report, Jordan Haig has more.
Behind me, UW-Madison art students are helping residents envision the future of the Mifflin neighborhood. These students are part of a social practice art engagement that took place Tuesday night. The art aimed to inspire ideas for the City of Madison's efforts to renovate the area around West Washington and West Mifflin.
What we're mostly going to be looking at is land use, building design, like how entries are used, how kind of buildings interact with the street, how cars and bikes and pedestrians interact with the street, and kind of those design details about how a building fits into its neighborhood.
Named Mifflandia, the meeting was part of a public engagement strategy that aims to engage area residents who are usually not interested or involved in a city plan. The strategy worked. Mifflin Street resident Colin Hayes came to be a part of the planning.
I believe Mifflin is a very culturally important street to the university. I think it's got a lot of uniqueness.
At the meeting, which kicked off the planning efforts, attendees were surveyed to give their opinion on what changes they'd like to see. More interactive meetings will take place in the coming months to continue gathering data on what changes residents want to see in the neighborhood. The data will result in recommendations for designs and implementation strategies to update the area.
At the end of this project, then it'll go to various city committees and ultimately the full city council to vote to make this plan actually a part of the official city law.
City planners hope to be done planning the urban design and landscape architecture within 6 to 8 months. For the Badger Report, I'm Jordan Haig.
Coming up next on the Badger Report,
we have some insight as to why Camp Randall might seem a little empty these days.
In constant motion. We think on our feet, connect with each other, and hit our stride, pushing past limits. Progress is an endless challenge, but it is only those up to the challenge who change the game.
More than a century ago, we made a commitment to our state. We promised to educate the sons and daughters of Wisconsin. More than 1 million students have passed through our doors. Our alumni have gone on to cure diseases, grow crops, build skyscrapers, found companies, score touchdowns, orbit the moon, and achieve beyond our wildest dreams, but not beyond theirs. On Wisconsin.
A pulse, felt by one, sends a ripple, felt by some. A shiver, felt by many, until it amplifies, magnifies into a tremor that electrifies. Badgers everywhere, moving as one, tilting the world on its axis.
At the turn of the last century, we made a promise to our state. We promised that we would not rest until we made life better for Wisconsin. We looked in our own backyard and we planted different crops, bred new herds, identified vitamins, improved harvesting machinery, established food safety standards, and churned a lot of ice cream. We haven't stopped working to make life better for our state and the world. On Wisconsin.
Welcome back. We will answer what you should be wearing not only to the Badger game this weekend, but on Saturday, but also what you should be wearing to the polls on Election Day.
In Wisconsin, cold weather may always be a problem. Some studies say that bad weather may reduce voter turnout. What will the weather be like on Election Day?
Well, as of right now, we think that November 6th will have a high of 50 degrees and a low of 37, so hopefully that won't deter people too much. Bring a jacket and don't forget an umbrella because there's a possibility of some rain.
What about game day?
Game day estimates to be a little colder with a high of 46 and a low of 28. You will definitely want to wear a coat for this one.
Great. Coming up next is the weather to help you figure out the rest of your jacket or no jacket dilemmas.
And don't forget to go out and vote on Tuesday.
That's right, Taylor. Let's go to Brandon Fishman to see what the forecast is looking like for the weekend of November. First weekend of November, rather.
Thanks, Megan. Fall is in full effect here in Madison.
The leaves are changing color, football season is underway, and those pumpkin spice lattes are on tap. Let's take a look at the weather. Today's high was 53, and the temperature is slowly dropping and will ultimately hit a low of 34 this evening. Tomorrow, expect a full day of overcast with a high of 46. It's going to be a bit chilly at night, so bring a couple extra layers if you're going to be out and about. As for Saturday, it's going to be pretty nice out with sunny skies overhead and a high of 50. The weather will be a little more stable than last time we had a game at Camp Randall, so wear whatever game day stuff you choose. That's all from me. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Brandon. Those of you going to Badger football games may have noticed that the student section seems a little emptier than usual. Camp Randall has one gate for student security and check-ins. This, in addition to Wisconsin drinking culture, is usually blamed for the late arriving or often absent student section. But sometimes students just don't feel like going.
I used to go to a ton of games in the past, for the past 3 years, but this year as a senior, it's been now that we're all 21, we all just end up going to the bars together, and the bars have TVs where you can watch the game, and when you're so far away from Camp Randall, you don't want to have to walk all the way over there when you have the convenience of watching it on a TV. So then I end up selling my ticket because I don't want to have to walk all the way over there, and I'm having too much fun already, so it's pointless.
Brenna says that she's only been to one game this year. She thinks what students who do go to the games end up leaving right before the fourth quarter after they jump around. While season ticket sales have stayed relatively stable over the past 7 years, as you can see in these pictures, attendance has visibly decreased.
This tweet is from last season's Badger home game against Michigan. Many students were fighting to get through the one entrance to the student section. And here's a picture of the student section against Nebraska earlier in October, just minutes before kickoff. The Badgers take on Rutgers at an 11 a.m. matchup at Camp Randall this Saturday. Let us know what you see from your seats, and tweet us at the Badger Report. After the break, learn about the voice of Wisconsin football.
And why he enjoys being a faceless celebrity. That's coming up only on the Badger Report.
A pulse, felt by one, sends a ripple, felt by some. A shiver, felt by many, until it amplifies, magnifies into a tremor that electrifies. Badgers everywhere, moving as one, tilting the world on its axis.
Progress is an endless challenge. Here at the University of Wisconsin, we're a community of innovators in constant motion. We think on our feet, connect with each other, and hit our stride, pushing past limits. Progress is an endless challenge, but it is only those up to the challenge who change the game.
More than a century ago, we made a commitment to our state. We promised to educate the sons and daughters of Wisconsin. More than 1 million students have passed through our doors. Our alumni have gone on to cure diseases, grow crops, build skyscrapers, found companies, score touchdowns, orbit the moon, and achieve beyond our wildest dreams, but not beyond theirs. On Wisconsin. In 1905, we made a promise. We promised that our work at Wisconsin would make life better for our state. Our research has developed crops, restored lakes, cured diseases, uncovered history, peered into space, and saved lives. More than a century later, we've not only kept our promise to Wisconsin, we've extended it to the world. On Wisconsin.
Another packed week in sports, and much more is forming over the horizon, with fall sports nearing the finish line, and the Badger Report's Sophia Drum has the latest.
Sophia, what did we miss in the world of Wisconsin sports this week?
Let me catch you up.
On Saturday, the Wisconsin Badgers suffered a road loss in Evanston, falling to the Northwestern Wildcats 31-17. Sophomore quarterback Jack Cohen made his first career start in place of junior Alex Hornibrook, who was sidelined with a concussion. With the win, Northwestern moves into the driver's seat for the Big Ten West title, while Wisconsin falls out of the AP Top 25 poll for the first time since 2016. This Saturday, Wisconsin hopes to rebound when Rutgers comes to town. Across campus, Wisconsin women's hockey split a 2-game series against Minnesota. The number 1 ranked Badgers dropped the first game 1-0, but rebounded with an impressive 4-1 victory on Sunday. They face Minnesota State this weekend. Next door, senior center Ethan Happ of the Wisconsin men's basketball team was named to the preseason AP All-America team. This list honors the top collegiate basketball players in the nation. Led by Happ, Wisconsin 2018-2019 regular season tips off next Tuesday against the Coppin State at the Kohl Center. In the NFL, the Green Bay Packers fell to the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday 27-29. A costly fumble by return man Ty Montgomery was too costly to overcome. Things don't get much easier for the 3-3-1 Pack when they travel to New England to take on the Patriots this Sunday. When Wisconsin plays host to Rutgers on Saturday, there is no guarantee of how many viewers will be in attendance, but you can be certain that they will hear this man's voice. The Badger Report's Brandon Fishman has the story of the PA man behind the Camp Randall mic.
Ball's marked on the 39-yard line. First and 10, Wisconsin. First and 10, Wisconsin.
If you're a Wisconsin football fan, you may not have heard of Mike Mankey, but chances are you've heard him many times before.
And at running back, number 23, Jonathan Taylor.
Now in his 24th season behind the mic at Camp Randall Stadium, Mankey is the voice of Badger athletics and, really, the faceless face of Wisconsin football. Mankey says this job landed right in his lap. The former theater major was thrown into the booth in 1995 with little preparation and no football announcing experience, but it didn't take long for him to develop his now iconic delivery.
You've got to deliver the information first, and if you can have fun while you're doing it, and the crowd likes what you're doing, hey, then I've done my job.
Perched high above the stadium, Mankey doesn't interact with many fans, but this anonymity doesn't really bother him.
I've done some wedding gigs and things like that, usually recorded, but it's actually kind of fun to be anonymous to a degree.
While Mankey may not garner much individual fame, that doesn't mean his work has gone unrecognized. His narration of the golden era of Wisconsin football earned him a spot in the Camp Randall 100, which acknowledges the most influential individuals in the history of Camp Randall.
The great seat on the 50-yard line for a couple of years. So I know at some point the end will come, but I guess I want to be remembered as someone who just loved Wisconsin football.
For the Badger Report, I'm Brandon Fishman.
Thanks, Brandon. You know, even when the score of the Badger game brings down fan spirits, it sure seems like his voice brings the crowd back to life.
And to round out this show with a little bit of a smile,
check out how his four-legged friends are helping him make it through midterms. That's next on the Badger Report.
A pulse, felt by one, sends a ripple, felt by some, a shiver, felt by many, until it amplifies, magnifies into a tremor that electrifies. Badgers everywhere, moving as one, tilting the world on its axis.
More than a century ago, we made a commitment to our state. We promised to educate the sons and daughters of Wisconsin. More than 1 million students have passed through our doors. Our alumni have gone on to cure diseases, grow crops, build skyscrapers, found companies, score touchdowns, orbit the moon, and achieve beyond our wildest dreams, but not beyond theirs. On Wisconsin.
Badgers on UW's campus are experiencing higher levels of anxiety as they find themselves in the middle of exam season.
But don't worry, the Badger Report's Jenna Webster has a very fluffy, cuddly, and adorable fix to all of their study stresses.
In the heat of midterm exam season, students campus-wide at UW-Madison are feeling the stress. The all-nighters at College Library and game day tailgates are adding up, and they need an outlet for their anxieties. The university has recognized this and has teamed up with the nonprofit Dogs on Call, which specializes in promoting the bond between dogs and people in an effort to help stressed students forget about their worries as they cuddle with dogs.
Having a therapy dog is good therapy for us too. We have so much enjoyment coming out here and seeing the young people enjoy it, seeing the retired people in nursing homes. Sometimes they don't have a visitor all week long and we come in and they just love the dog.
Student demand has caused the program's relationship with a nonprofit to grow to over 70 visits to UW-Madison in the last year.
Yes, like my stress level, like when I was walking here, I was talking to my room, I'm just like so wound up right now and I just need to like relax. And I came here, I started petting one of the labs over there. Her name is Morgan, she's 4 years old. And they just kind of came back down to a whole relaxed level.
These therapy animals not only help students and patients, but also bring a smile to their handlers.
I never meet an unhappy student or one that doesn't smile or one that doesn't say thank you for coming.
Dogs on Call will continue to have visits at UW libraries, dorms, and various other locations. For their schedule, be sure to visit their website, dogsoncall.org. With the Badger Report, I'm Jenna Webster.
Thank you for watching this week's Badger Report. Taylor, how are you spending your weekend?
Well, Megan, I'm planning on dragging my friends to the polls and making sure I wake up early enough to get some magic coffee and head to the Badger game. That's it from us. Tune in next week to hear the latest and best Madison news.